right, here we are. This is Trisha Schmalhofer with BAM, Badasses, Alchemists, and Mystics. And I'm so excited to be in the studio today with one of my dear friends who's definitely a badass alchemist mystic, Shannon Gronich. Hi, Shannon.
Hi, thank you for having me.
I'm so glad you're here.
No.
Shannon is known as the business connection specialist. And she is one of those people in the community and internationally where she connects people. She just has a knack for doing it, for seeing who can potentially work with somebody else and mentoring business owners and entrepreneurs. And I want you to share where we met, because I had to ask her. I'm like, gosh, how did we even meet? Because I feel like I've known you a long time, but it has in the whole scheme of timelines and everything, it really hasn't been that long.
Yeah, it was at the amazing speed healing that they do at the pod, People of Diversity group. Yeah. And I remember they have 10, you do like 10 minutes at each person. And I got to lay on your table, and the minute you touched me and you started talking and you were sharing things, I'm going, I don't know who this woman is, but she is a badass. It's just like, holy cow. And and I was dealing something, within the 10 minutes, I was feeling better, which was just awesome. How you're able to get right to that core stuff that was going on in my neck, and then there was some emotional stuff, and I think I even got a little teary, and
which can happen sometimes in the work that I do. So when she mentioned that, I was like, oh my gosh, like that was like 4 or 5 years ago, I think. So and I think why we get along so well is because we both are alchemists. We just do it in different ways. But I'm starting to venture more into community building, which is something where you've always been the alchemist, and the connector. I'm so used to doing it in the body and one-on-one and making things happen there and in the multidimensional aspect of a person,
which you do very well.
Yeah, thank you. And but now I'm seeing I'm getting led to be more into a leadership role and lead leaders and lead healers to say, hey, how can we all get empowered and help change things, because we are in a change-filled time right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I believe community is a currency. And right now we've got to stick together in order to navigate. So I'm so excited. Have you shared with your audience about your center and your expansion?
Yet. We're gonna share about that a little more before the second break. That's okay, but I will. But you just said something I want to go back to. Community is a currency. I want you to explain that a little bit more. What do you mean by that?
Well, you think about like what's happening right now or any time in your life. If you get stuck or you're trying to transform, transmute, evolve, it's through other people, through incredible healers, through resources that can help us navigate and actually accelerate things. So those that have a community, those that are, and you don't even have to have your own community. You could just be a part of somebody else's community.
Right.
But being in community, it always accelerates growth.
Yes, it does. I agree. And it can be, kindred spirits or like-minded people, but also community can be like a diverse group where we're all like adding our uniqueness to build it, to make it happen. And I love the differences of people. There's just a weird noise. I'm like, what is that? Like, is this it? Is it happening? I love celebrating the differences that people bring into the group or the community, because we all have our specialties and our uniqueness that just makes things so fun and fascinating to me. So, Shannon, I was thinking too, that was the first time we met, and then you have run. I'm going to read your bio now. That was actually, I was going to wait, but I'm going to read it now, because Shannon does this one. She has so many things, so I have to like really narrow it down. So I'm going to read her a piece of her bio, and she will help other people create their own power bios, you call it.
Yes.
But this just gives you a little nugget of Shannon Gronich and what exactly she does. Shannon Gronich has successfully attained over $3.2 million in free, that's free, Free, publicity, and is notorious for being the owner of, quote, $1 million Rolodex, end quote, and teaching others how to do the same. Shannon is the creator of a magnetic community. That's very powerful words. The Business Acceleration Network, where she guides businesses to build a successful enterprise while having fun and making lots of money. I love that you have that. Fun and making money.
Yes, yes.
She brings together social entrepreneurs, visionaries, and new thought leaders that want to collaborate, create a better world, and focus on prosperity so that they can pay it forward to make a positive impact. She has co-authored The Law of Business Attraction, The Secret of Cooperative Success, an Amazon #1 bestseller with T. Harv Eker, of The Millionaire Mind. So there's so many nuggets in that. I can see why it's a power bio. We could do a whole podcast just taking these pieces apart, and this isn't even your full
didn't
long
include
bio.
like the 400 events. And,
right, because the Business Acceleration Network was your creation, correct? And that is the next place I kind of met you.
Yeah.
After the healing, the speed healing, you invited me to that, and that is. Do you want to say just a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Let's talk about the Business Acceleration Network, because that is really. That was your creation and your baby for a long time.
How we bring community together, how we really give them the opportunity to mastermind, connect with resources. And what I love about it is that the miracles that happen. It's like when you get a group of people together and you have this shared vision of helping each other, supporting each other, really being vulnerable, opening up. It's just magic. And we bring in a lot of speakers that you may not get access to. Otherwise, it's they've already attained a certain level of success, and they're coming to give back or tithe their time. So
yes,
it's really a neat thing.
Talk about alchemy. Watching the transformation happen and seeing the light bulb, seeing like people just, oh my gosh, that's what changed it for me. And so it's very high energy and very magical. It is. And you were a participant in that book. You have a book out called Media Magic.
Yes.
Is that the full name?
It's like instantly get publicity, radio, and print, internet publicity. I don't know the exact name.
Right.
But it's how to get
it
all
has a
those
little
things.
subject,
Yes.
but it's free publicity, which
Yes.
was in the part of the bio that I read. And I finally, well, and we were talking about the Business Acceleration Network. We weren't going to do a whole lot with that because that was a live event. And right now we are in a time where virtual events are starting to emerge and things are changing because live events just aren't going to be going on. And it doesn't even seem like maybe even till the end of the year. I was talking to someone that creates this, she brings in the Native Rhythm Festival here every year, and they're thinking about not doing it. And it's so sad because I go there every year, and that's happening across the board with live events, as you know, because that was always your specialty. So, and we're going to talk a little more about that, navigating through this. But Media Magic, I just participated in your first ever virtual one, right?
Yep.
And it's a lot of information, but it is amazing how much free publicity is out there. And so if someone wants to get your book, how would they do that?
They can go to shannongronich.com and purchase it there. I give away a free 45-minute training on copywriting secrets, the language of prosperity, with Jay Abraham's ghostwriter. If they also go get it on Amazon, just email me the receipt and I'll send you that too.
Okay. What's your email?
info@shannongronich.com.
Okay. So media magic.
And what I have to say that I loved having you in that class, because it's what's common is there's she's giggling is that for some reason my entire life have attracted amazing healers. I say I'm a magnet for just remarkable people, and they're really good at what you do, but sometimes when it comes to talking about yourself and bragging and creating the power bio is one thing, and then a lot of times it's that little bit of language tweaking that can make the biggest difference to start being magnetic in what you're doing. So I know there were times where it's challenging.
You can tell on me. It's okay. I'm an open book. You can tell on me.
Well, what I love, and it's not telling on you, but what I love is that you show up and you play at 100% whatever you do.
I do.
And you're full, transparent, vulnerable.
I totally
And
am.
I know there was a time where you're like, I'm laying on the floor right now. I need to
with my feet up,
with my
just
feet
listening.
because we were actually working, and it was a different environment, but it was still great. But when we're live, like you're working and you can raise your hand, and you have marketing experts and advertising experts that come and support you. And this time it was just, it was wonderful, but it was still a lot more intense, I think.
Well, and it was only one day
instead
squished
of the 2.
in, and it was a full day. I think because I also did the mastermind lunch too, and I had like 10 minutes to get my dinner or lunch, and then it was like it was pretty much 8 hours of
it was solid if you did the VIP. Yes.
And VIP. So at one point I turned my camera off because it was Zoom, and I just had to lay on the floor because my brain was mush, because it's so much information. But what was said on there, because like Shannon said, a lot of healers are on there, and healers, I think too, I'm a more balanced brain healer.
You are.
I am.
You have your feet in both worlds.
I
very
do.
well.
I do, and I'm blessed with that. But a lot of healers are very right-brained, very intuitive, symbols, intuition, and
structure's painful.
And structure, it's like, oh my God, like I feel like I'm gonna burst out of my skin. So the fact that I was having a hard time, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't imagine other people that are a little more, floaty and not as grounded. But I got so much out of it, and I still haven't finished my power bio, because it's true, like talking about myself. Even I've had podcast guests on that are like, why aren't we talking about how fabulous you are, Trish? Like you are highlighting all of these wonderful people in the community, and you're one of them. Why are you not talking about yourself? And it's hard sometimes to it's almost like in the spiritual community, it's like when you're humble, it's like, oh no, you have to just kind of let things get attracted to you, and you can't like be too egotistical, And when I first was getting my website medhealers.com developed, I worked with a marketing company, and they helped me snap out of that a little bit, and that might be why I'm a little better, because they were like, no, you have to create yourself as an expert in the field. You have to tell people why you're wonderful, and they got me on video, and that I had to just step into it fully.
You had to do it.
Because I paid for it too. When you actually pay for something, like a chunk of cash, and you are invested in it, and I'm like, well, I'm doing it because I'm all in. I'm an all-in person. Once I say yes, I am all in. So,
and that brings up another key point, is that you are coachable, and that it's one thing to do the money, because people can sometimes spend money and then they're not willing to do whatever it takes. And so that's one of the things I love about our network, is that you can come and meet different experts, and a lot of times people don't even have to hire them. They can just take some of the input and go.
Yes.
But for you, like you being coachable, you being willing, even though it was uncomfortable, saying, I'm going to do this no matter what.
Yes. Yep. And I had never done video before, and I luckily had people coaching me, and they could edit it. But yeah, and I look back on those videos now, I'm like, oh my gosh, I was so nervous, and look at what I was saying.
You could tell you were nervous in the videos?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. But they did a really good job with it. But, now I'm like, oh yeah, podcast, we're on camera. Hey, here I am. And, but it was it was a turning point in how I started looking at myself in the whole marketing thing and stepping into the more business end, instead of just being a healer that people found. And it's like, oh, I'm making a new step. But just more the Power Bio, which there's a really long form you can do, and how Shannon teaches it is then you can take segments of it for different aspects, like if you're going to be a speaker, if you're going to be a teacher, if you're, whatever. But the process, it's you take like a week to 2 weeks, and every day you're kind of continuously, there's 13 steps,
questions, yeah.
Right. And you have pages and you keep adding to it. It's like a living, growing thing. So you're constantly thinking about how fabulous am I, and how am I an expert, and what cool people have I done things with. And even just me starting I always use yellow pads. That's why I keep looking at my yellow pad, because I have a yellow pad at home with it half done. And that it's but once it starts rolling, it starts flowing out, and you kind of you get into it.
And I think one of the things that you saw, and this is another powerful thing about community, is that while you were there, people were able to highlight things that maybe you didn't see.
Right.
And that's so great to have other people see things in you that you may go, oh, well, that's not a big deal, or I forget about that. But you remember there was a lot of people there, and it's like
they were. And we did breakout sessions where we give feedback to each other. And that is very valuable, because you can have something on paper and you're saying it, and the way someone's receiving it, they're saying, yeah, but you're describing yourself in a way that's pretty much how everyone describes themselves.
Yes,
how are you unique?
Different.
And okay, I'm kind of looking. Yeah, we probably should go to our first break, right? Yeah, so let's segue into break, and we're going to feature Shannon a little bit more. And so we just have her, on those that are watching on YouTube. We're going to have, we'll just use that one. So it's the Business Connection Specialist. That's Shannon. So Shannon, why don't you just say how people get in touch with you?
Perfect. Yes, you can go to shannongronich.com, and also if you just go to Shannon Gronich anything on Twitter or YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, and so I got to work with a branding expert, Ray Perez, and he was like, you are the business connection specialist, and whether you're looking for something in business or even personal stuff, it's like I know that there's people where I've said, you need to go see Trish. It's like, I just love connecting people with things that may be missing or that they need next to go to the next level.
And you're very intuitive that way. Not everyone sees how two people can meet each other's needs. So why would someone want to seek you out? What's your ideal client?
Why would somebody want to seek me out? Well, maybe they're wanting to do an event and they've never done it before, and they want to avoid all the pitfalls of events because they can be very costly. Maybe they're struggling and they're feeling alone, and they want to be a part of a community, and they want to connect at a deeper level with an existing community. And maybe they're somebody that is reached a plateau in their business and want to go to the next level, or they're looking at what's happening in the world right now, and they're trying to figure out what's next. And so I know you said that we just started doing some of the events. I feel like this experience that's happening in the world, somehow we managed to be ready for this and able to pivot. So maybe people are struggling with a pivot, and I might be able to help a little bit with that.
And we're gonna talk a lot more about that, how to pivot or be adaptable, when we come back after this break.
You're listening to Space Coast Podcast, home of the greatest podcasts on the Space Coast. If you're interested in becoming a sponsor or having your own show, email us at spacecoastpodcast@hotmail.com. Space Coast Podcast. Talk hard!
Join us for the fresh, new For Your Best Self podcast with Drs. Anita Saluja and Rebecca Novo of Dermatology plus Plastic Surgery. We will reveal the facts about techniques, trends, products, and procedures to be your best self. The first and only podcast combining the synergy of aesthetic dermatology plus plastic surgery. Search For Your Best Self on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and Spotify.
Are you in the market for a new home? Perhaps you need to sell your old home and downsize or relocate. Hey there, my name is Jesse Hall with eXp Realty, and I offer professional real estate services right here on the Space Coast. Give me a call, 321-877-8737 for all of your real estate needs. Again, 321-877-8737 for all of your real estate needs. Buy, sell, invest with the best. Find out more at 321-buysellinvest.com.
All right, we are back. Shannon Gronich is here in the studio, Space Coast Podcast Network, with me, Trisha Schmalhofer, with BAM, Badasses, Alchemists, and Mystics. I actually just defined, I sat with Leah Williamson, who's going to be helping to form a new community, a BAM community that has grown out of this podcast. And we sat there and defined badass, alchemist, mystic. It took us like an hour. We were going through our thesaurus and we're looking at, and we're like, we had to pick out definitions that matched.
Resonated.
Yes. And so it was really fun because we're both kind of wordsmithy. And so I'll have to read them out. I don't have them right here, but on the next one maybe, because I think I'm going to have Leah on next month. But we were talking about the pivot. I like that word. My whole thing during COVID and during what's happening with society right now, this time of change, I call it the era of change in a lot of my spiritual stuff I do. I got the word adaptable, that we have to adapt our businesses, our lifestyles, our family structure, our all of that. And school, it's all about adapting.
Yes.
So as you were talking about your ideal client were people holding events, and right now that is kind of shifted big time. People wanting a community and people that are plateauing in their business or they're ready for a pivot. Let's look at community building during this time of adaptability and this era of change. How have you served your community during this time?
Yeah, it's been really wonderful because the minute everything kind of transformed and it was like everything got shut down, my heart went, how do we help people come together? You know, like we're not supposed to come together, but what do we do to come together? And so partnered with King's Counsel and Trust Family Office, and we started town hall meetings called Love Your Neighbor. And they have a beautiful Love Your Neighbor policy, and it was just amazing. We had such huge planet shifters already that have shown up and contributed and been a part of it. Stuart Levine, Jill Lublin, Steve Myers. There's a lot of great people that showed up going, okay, we need to come together to navigate this. So the big thing was just like creating that hub. Like if you're looking to build a community or you want to be a part of a community, find where there's a hub that you can connect with. So we were twice a week coming together and sharing things on what to do with money right now. Like the manager of King's Counsel and Trust, if you don't know what family office is, look it up on Wikipedia, because they usually manage ultra wealth, and their commitment is to help average people learn some of those things, because we know that the ultra wealthy, we don't, they whisper. Money whispers.
Yes.
When they're at that place. So we
what do you mean by that, money whispers?
Well, it's interesting because we were actually talking about this yesterday. He said you can tell a wealthy person and you can tell somebody that's not, because wealthy people just don't talk about it. It's a whisper. Does that make sense? It's not a loud look at this. I've got
what
this,
I
you know.
have. Yes, yes.
And it doesn't mean that we don't have nice things, but it's just it's not.
It's a whole nother paradigm, a whole nother mindset is that extreme wealth. So
we if and anybody is welcome to join this, but basically he opened up the doors of what members have only had access to and gave access to that. So in there, and then we helped. In there are things about love your neighbor, financial stuff in case of emergency. So a lot of times we don't know what's that box that you need to get up and go,
right,
and how do you do that, and what do you do with your money right now? Like how do you
big
negotiate
issue.
bills?
Yes.
How do you access money? I mean, it was so perfect because so many people were like, what do I do? And to have this place where not only where they could get their questions answered, but do it as a community.
Mm-hmm.
So they would go, gosh, I'm not alone. And
yes.
And that piece of it. My favorite thing and what really attracted me to King's Counsel and Trust was the family love letter. And it's a little, I don't like the word morbid, but it is. It's like the family love letter is what you do now with your family to deal with all of the things about if you transition. And
yes.
like a week, my dad died March 15th, and it was like he didn't have his house in order.
Mm-hmm.
And so this has been something in our Love Your Neighbor where we're giving people all the stuff that you do, that you meet with your family. And this is way beyond a will. This is like sitting down and talking about, this is what I want to be remembered for. Here's the things that I have. Here's where you find it. So it's been really beautiful. We continue to do this now. We bring people together and everybody gets free access to everything. All of this stuff we didn't charge. We just wanted people to know that to navigate this, community is the key. And you don't have to do it alone. It's just like coming together and sharing those resources. And so when you get into what we call our virtual home, back there you can see all of our members. People have files where they upload their power bio or pictures, and that way we can continue to collaborate even outside of the meetings.
Good. And this is on Zoom. That's the platform you're using. And I remember when the whole period of isolation started, I remember a lot of people were like, oh my gosh, is this the zombie apocalypse happening? Like, and that's when you did talk about, when you started Love Your Neighbor, that's when you did talk about like, hey, like, what is essential here? Like, you know, if it is going to be like a major crisis, like how do we navigate through this? How do you prepare for this? If you're not prepared already, how can you quickly prepare? And then it kind of transformed more into, you know, as things kind of settled. But the whole thing of the isolation and, you know, for a while, I looked back at a meme that I posted and it was like about being in isolation for 3 weeks, right? And this was in the beginning. It was like only for 3 weeks. Oh, okay. And that was a big deal. And then it turned into, you know, a few months. So of connecting people and continuing the conversation, continuing it into other things.
And a lot of people still, you know, the one thing is this is a place also of accountability. So because a lot of people struggle with this concept of I need to prepare for when people die, or I need to get ready for in case of an emergency, or how do I love my neighbor? And so this is also a place where, you know, we celebrate, hey, I got this completed. Or
and I know what you mean about, you know, that it is kind of morbid talking about when I die, but it is such a blessing and a gift to your family to have all of that worked out. I know from my mom passing 3 years ago, my dad is still alive, but just even one parent going, and you just start to see, oh my gosh, this is even something I considered that we'd have to look at. So now when my dad does pass, it's probably not going to be for a while. I come from good stock. If he would just eat correctly, Dad. No, he's a wonderful man. He's still 79 and he still works full time at his own business. So I come from a family of business owners, you know. He's a tough guy. But anyway, when he does go, we are going to be prepared because we have had these conversations, but not everyone has. So
Yeah, and it's interesting because also for your business, it's like we looked at that piece of the business, and one of the things that was interesting in the community, somebody's going, well, I have this card and it's in my wallet and it tells people what to do. And I said, if your wallet is on you, nobody will ever know, because it goes with the coronary. It goes, like, it could be however long it takes. And I learned this because my dad happened to have his wallet and everything beside him, so we could get it right away. So I was like, basically your card is useless, but we don't know unless we have these conversations.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Totally.
And really educate each other on what works, what doesn't work. We're actually not doing probate, and everybody's like, you got to do probate, and have been able to navigate not doing probate.
What's probate?
Probate is where you have to get the the attorneys involved and help navigate and split up and distribute and that whole piece. Now, he didn't have a bunch of stuff, but he still had cars and bank accounts, and it's been really great to have a community, and also just being committed to, like, we all agree we don't need the government involved telling us what to do.
If someone didn't have a community to give their perspective and advice and, hey, this is what we did, or here's another option, it is like you're drowning in this stuff.
Information.
Yeah. So I'm in agreement. Community is amazing. And it's great with King's Counsel and Trust that they do specialize in finances and wealth and money, because that is a big stress normally for people, but especially during this time of change and transformation. So I think we should probably go to another break. Let's do that. I know, right? It goes so fast.
It goes so fast.
It does. We're having fun. So BAM Community Space. So yes, as we were saying, Badasses Alchemist Mystic started with just a little flicker of an idea and became a podcast. And with the help of Jesse Hall with Space Coast Podcast Network, we started doing this regularly, and through guests I've had on and listeners, and it started growing into events and workshops, and now a live stream on Twitch, and all of these Facebook Lives, and all of these different things to highlight badassery and alchemy and mysticism. And a community has formed. And so a new space, an in-person space called BAM Community, is being formed in Palm Bay, Florida, which is where I live. But now, because of the pivot and this adaptation into the new times, we are going to be live streaming classes. So we'll have small classes and events and services, but we're going to have subscriptions for people to participate that live anywhere in the world that want to participate in the badassery that's going to be coming out of this. So stay tuned for this as it grows and expands and shapes into something very beautiful. So we'll be right back after this.
Hey there, this is Jesse Hall, and I want to remind you to tune into Business Elite Brevard Edition. And what we do on Business Elite Brevard Edition is bring to you some of the biggest movers and shakers on the Space Coast. These could be industry leaders, tech innovators, and social influencers. And what we do is kind of bring them on, ask them some of the most relevant questions that you may not know about. And these are people who may not be in the news, but they are making moves behind the scenes. Again, tune in. Business Elite Brevard Edition.
Hey friends, Steve Vitani here, your host of the Steve Talks 321 podcast show. We are in the studio broadcasting on Facebook Live every Tuesday at 7 p.m., talking about your favorite real estate topics or anything along the Space Coast. If you have an idea for a show, send in your request live on the air. If you missed the show, don't worry, we're on 24/7 all over the world on Spotify, Pandora, iTunes, iHeart, and many other major music podcast sites on the Space Coast Podcast channel. I look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks for listening to Steve Talks 321.
right, we're back. This is Trisha with BAM, Badasses, Alchemists, and Mystics, and I'm here with Shannon Gronich, business connection specialist, and so much more than that. Shannon's just a multi-dimensionally fabulous human being, and I'm so honored that I know you and have worked with you even a lot more recently, and I'm really glad for that.
You've been helping my son who had major head stuff and even blackouts, and it's been beautiful how you've not only helped him on his healing journey, but you've empowered him. I remember sounds kind of silly, but it was beautiful, like giving him a way to communicate his pain level with the bowling pins. Do you remember?
Oh, yeah.
And we still do that now. He's like, Mom, my head hurts, and okay, how many pins do you have? And he'll go, oh, I have 7, okay. And then he'll go, okay, I knocked 3 down. And like, you've empowered this 6-year-old to be his own healer.
I'm getting teary-eyed.
So it's beautiful.
He is just, you know how I feel about your son. And, and the types of modalities that I have studied, it's really a blessing that I can help change actual brain and head injury.
Yes.
You know, the craniosacral is amazing, but it just is. And I'm just honored. I love working with all ages, but children are they're so open and they just heal a lot quicker. You know, adults, we like to hang on to our stuff. You know?
And get nervous. Like I remember, hope it's okay, I'm sharing some of this stuff.
Yeah.
But I remember you were working on him, and he was just having like a release. And so I remember he was like flopping and doing stuff where I would normally want to try to control that. Like, is he okay? What's going on? And you're like, he's okay. He's just releasing. And it was so beautiful for me as a mom to go, okay, sometimes he needs to just go crazy. I mean, it looked like he was like literally going
right. And you're right. A parent's first reaction to that is to, oh, no, you got to sit down.
Yes,
you can't go out that door.
And you got to flat. And
yes.
Yeah.
And there's certain things as a therapist that I'm tuned into where I know if it's him just misbehaving or if he's in a therapeutic process.
Yes.
And that's when I was like, no, he's releasing. You let him go. And then once you kind of settled into it, it was quite an experience.
Beautiful. And then he slept. Do you remember that time? He's just like, out. Yeah.
So thanks for sharing that because, the healing process, children can just really go into it and they really just kind of surrender into it a lot quicker than adults. And, and it's when the parent's in the room and if they're young enough, they need to be, it's like, just go with the flow, Mom. Go with the flow, Dad. So thank you for that. And
and he loves you. He sees you and he hugs you. And he's like,
I know. He's a sweetie. So let's talk about money.
Money,
because we wanted to, and that just touches my heart because money does, and so does talking about healing and the whole healing process and how just amazing it is. And it's different for every single person. So some things we're saying about wealth whispers, and Dale replied, money talks, wealth whispers, and it's kind of going into that. And even on your bio, you had said having fun and making money, putting those together. And one of the things that with prosperity and abundance, that as a person on her spiritual path, it was looking at, we're kind of inundated, plus with our religious upbringing sometimes, that having money isn't spiritual or God doesn't really want us to, So I'm here to tell you from my experience, and I want you to chime in on this, that money is energy and it is a tool for us to create what we want, but you even mention in your bio paying it forward. A lot of friends that I talk to that are hung up on that, well, I don't want to be one of those wealthy people with the big mansions and all this money. And I'm like, but think about, you don't have to have a big mansion. For
Exactly.
one. You can still have a nice little home and whatever and drive a junky car, because actually a lot of really wealthy people do that. They don't, like, they whisper their money. They're not big flashy people, but that think about the money you can give to support what really matters to you. So what do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah,
topic?
so I know, and you and I got to share stage somewhere where we've talked about money, and it was really wonderful because I've went through all kinds of things about money, and there are some people that think if God gave you the gift, you're not supposed to charge for it. And it's like,
that's another one.
It's like, I think that we really, God wants us to live such a full life. We're here to live a full life. I think money makes you more of who you are. So if you're a giver, you're going to give more. If you're a taker, you might take more. I mean, I think it is an energy and it is an amplifier.
I never looked at it that way.
It definitely makes you more of who you are. And it's interesting. I'm continuing to learn about money. I'm continuing to learn about red flags in other people, because I know that everybody's trying to navigate, not that it's bad, but just I really want to align with people that they put impact and people before profits.
Explain that.
Well,
what do you mean impact?
Impact means what are you doing with it? How are you? Are you just banking it somewhere? Are you making a difference? Do you tithe? Do you have a cause you're sharing with? How are you giving? And really, Tricia, you know this. Sometimes your time is more valuable than money. So it's all considered wealth and money, that it's not just the actual cash
of what's
So people before profits mean, let me use real estate as an example. It's like a realtor has to go sell a house, and it's a house where they need the commission. Are they going to put the buyer's needs, wants, and desires before making the commission? Are they going to go and show them 30 houses until they find the one that they want? Or are they going to say, no, you got to get this one because the market's, like fear or loss them and put them into something that really may not be their desire because of commission? So it's like when we're making decisions, are we making it from lack and need and I've got to get, or are we making it from God is my source, I'm going to be taken care of, as long as I take care of this person in front of me and I put people first? That it's a whole other way of thinking and being. And when you say wealth, it's like, we're all supposed to be wealthy and enjoy life,
and there is enough for everyone. That was another misconception, that there's not enough for everyone. Like, if I have all this, then someone else is going without. And that, in the book that we've done, the program with The Science of Getting Rich, it's very clear that no, it's an inexhaustible source coming directly from divine source or God. And it's like, it is supposed to, the big aha for me with money was, it's supposed to be flowing and interchanging. It's not hoarding it. I have all this money, let me just pack it in there. It's supposed to go over here, and then it comes back, and then it goes over here to help this grow and help. It's this fluid, lovely expression of God. Dale, who commented, said something like, it's something about money is God's footprints, or I don't remember. Dale, if you're still listening, comment what that quote was, because I remember asking him, tell me what that means. That's so. And Dale is the King's Counsel and Trust that you're doing the Love Your Neighbor with. So maybe we'll have to get him on here sometime.
Oh, he's interesting.
We can talk money.
He's like a financial futurist. I feel like he has been given,
that would be interesting,
the download of what's supposed to happen, and not only been given it, he's been building the last 10 years to prepare for this.
Yeah, so that, Dale, do you hear that? So that you might be me on here coming up. So so you have let me see where we're at. There's a book that you're creating right now. And I know you don't want to talk a lot about it because it's still in the works, but it's about community and collaboration. It's about like kind of what we're talking about. Is there anything else kind of in the book that you kind of want to?
Yeah, well, you just brought up the point about lack of money, and that is kind of a competition thing, and so I'm glad that you brought that up, because I have been, since I've been committed to collaboration for many years. You know, I used to have Conscious Living Partnership that started here. I feel like sometimes that which we advocate for, we get tests to make sure that we're solid and we learn. And there's been experiences where I felt lack, I felt scarcity, I felt, competition. And once I paused and communicated and stepped into how do I collaborate, it's like I would have events sell out beforehand. It's just, we really, the more we come together to collaborate, even with competitors. I've had 5 hypnotherapists, I remember, coming together, and at first it was like, well, I do this and I do this, as they're sharing in the circle.
Yes.
And then finally I pulled them together, and I'm like, we got to collaborate. What's your skills and talents? What do you like? How can you cross-refer? And it took a few months, because it's a new way of being.
Yes.
Right? It's a whole new way of being. They ended up advertising together. They ended up cross-referring. I like non-smoking. I like past life regression.
Exactly.
And it was like they just amplified everybody's business by coming together. So I'm so excited about this book. Have studied community forever, and love this piece of collaboration is another currency. It's really a currency.
Let's talk a little bit more about that when we come back after the last break, because I utilize that in my field as well.
You're great at that.
Thank you. So Body by Brenda, we're going to highlight her. I gave Shannon a little sample, but and Jesse's wife, my producer, loves it. And I don't know if Brenda's doing a promotion right now, but brendaswanson.com is the website where you can order it. But body butters, I'm going to put a little bit on my hands because I just came back from the ocean. I had my first surfing lesson today, so my hands are a little dry. So I'm going to put Brenda's body butter on, and I'm going to tell you, this stuff, try it. It's the perfect consistency. It's thick enough where it actually moisturizes, but it goes right in, and it smells. She uses doTERRA therapeutic grade essential oils, and she has 4 different scents. Yeah. This so one good. That we are indulging in right now is Revive and Refresh, and it's kind of citrusy. Jesse's gonna try some too. It's good stuff. It's like, and so she really struggled with, you had to keep reapplying moisturizer, and as you age, your skin gets drier if you live in like elements like this. And she also makes bath salts, but you get in the shower, the bath, and then when you come out, she said, kind of blot your skin and then put the body butter on, because that's when your skin's moist is when it really sinks in. Yes, she is beautiful. You'll have to see. I had her on the podcast a couple times ago. But Body by Brenda, the body butters is what we are loving on right now. brendaswanson.com is the site. Check it out. We'll be right back.
All right. This is Doug Monda.
This is Karen Monda.
And Chris Hadaway.
And we're the host of Survive, the new podcast brought to you by the Survive First Foundation, a nonprofit organization assisting first responders and their families in need of mental health support due to the lifestyle of being a first responder. So, Chris, tell us what we're going to have.
We're coming to you from retired and active law enforcement officers as well as their spouses to discuss the responder life.
Don't forget, this is an unedited and raw podcast, so we need your interactive suggestions and advice to help us help others.
So find us live on our Survive First Facebook page and join in the conversation, or find us on demand on Spotify, iTunes, or anywhere you listen to podcasts, from the Space Coast Podcast Network to you.
This is Trisha with BAM Badasses, Alchemists, and Mystics. I'm here with Shannon Gronich, and we're having fun. We're talking about money and community and collaboration and pivoting and changing and adapting and free publicity and fabulousness. Yes. And so
Healing.
yes, and healing and just a whole whirlwind of goodness. So the collaboration versus competition. Yes, I know, like, as a licensed massage therapist is my official license, even though what I do is I don't really do much massage anymore. I do other things in the body
I
and
think
healing.
you have a wheelbarrow or even a dump truck of all of the things you've studied.
I do. That's why my power bio is taking forever. And once I commit to doing it, though, I'll get it done. But yes, and to this day, I was over at Shannon's and she was introducing me, and she was like, how do you describe what you do? Or someone else just said that, and I'm like, it's hard to describe what I do. It's just hard. It's very difficult. So,
I love the term medical intuitive.
Yes.
I don't know if you like that one, but I think it's a little more mainstream than it's been in the last 20 years. And
there's a little less liability around it too.
Is?
For a while, there was some kind of like, oh, you don't want to like claim you're a medical intuitive because you can get sued and all that. But I think it's relaxed
you have way
a little
more
bit.
than that. But that's just one thing that I know that depending on the audience, especially if it's a business person, that tends to be a little more.
Yeah, it does depend on the audience, and that's why also I'm fabulous is because I really can communicate with
science.
I can. Science and spirit. They are supposed to be alchemized and work together. And so I can talk to an engineer that's very science-brained, or I can talk to a psychic, multidimensional traveler, and I can help either. I'm going to talk a little bit about me since we are. I'm getting more led into mentorship and not only community building and collaboration, which we are going to go back to that, but mentorship, and it's called Power Alchemy, and I'm kind of like a life guide. I like that term. Instead of coach, even though that's a fine term, but it's like really working with people on their whole being, like multi-dimensional being. Is it your soul? Is it your mind? Is it your health, physical health? How are we going to help you be empowered and be the best person you can be? Because in this time right now that we're in, we all need to be stepping into who we really are authentically and be empowered and get out there in the world. We need that, everyone to be doing that. So
I did a 3-month program with you, and I felt like you were my mentor. You helped me with my dad's death. You helped me with the business pivot. You've helped me with even managing some of this. You are a rock star. There's times where I remember one time we did it virtually. Do you remember what I said afterwards? Because I was like, "Oh, she's not gonna work with me in person," which which is remarkable. And that session was even more powerful virtually.
Yeah, we were on the phone.
Yes.
And because it was like in the dead of COVID, and I'm like, let's just try virtual. I'm trying to pivot here and adapt. Let's just try it.
I was like, wow. It was remarkable.
Yeah.
So.
And I've done long distance healing a lot, even before this. But that was a very powerful session. And so collaboration is what I want to, it's not only collaborating among peers, but collaborating within the community, or if you are a healer, you're collaborating with your client. It's like it's a relationship. And this competition versus collaboration, as a massage therapist, there are some massage therapists that refuse to refer to other massage therapists because they want to keep their clients in their business. And I was never that way. I know what I'm good at. I know where my specialty is. And I often will say, you're at a point in your healing where you need to go get this type of therapy. and go. And if you come back to me when it's time, then you're meant to come back to me. Or refer to a chiropractor, refer to an acupuncturist, or a medical doctor, or a surgeon. I've referred even that way, because it's like, this is not repairing.
I think you're bringing up something that is a really good interview question when people are looking at chiropractors or anybody that they're working with, because there's also a lot of chiropractors that refuse to refer massage therapists if they're not in their network. And so you actually just brought up something I want to make sure I include in my book. It's like you want to know what is your referral network, because if somebody doesn't refer, and a lot of people think my way is the only way, to me that's a really big red flag, because as you teach, Tricia, your body is
it's alive.
It's the book that really has all the answers. You just got to have somebody that's willing to help you be on that journey and refer and collaborate.
That's
because
right.
It's not just one person sometimes that you need.
No. And talk about collaboration with the body. There's a body consciousness. Your body is alive and will talk to you, and it follows your mind, and then you have a soul, and it's all supposed to be in harmony. And so many people on spiritual paths, it's like, oh yes, this body's just a shell and it's got to be left behind and I have to overcome. No, embody your power, your soul, your spirit, your divinity, and it's supposed to be brought with us in this time. So this is a whole nother podcast talking about the ascension
Now we're going to
process.
go on the pleasure one. And so, sorry,
Yeah,
I was like,
I
man,
know.
we could have a whole other topic going on here.
Yeah.
I've realized a lot this year that I have neglected pleasure.
Yes.
And I think as women, we've grown. I hope it's okay. I'm sharing this.
Oh, please.
I think we're in a society where we've been shamed. We've been stuffed with bras. There's just so much confinement, and it's like we are here to enjoy pleasure, be pleasure, and it's, there's so much more.
The body is divine. It is a sacred temple, and it is, yes, you have in your bio, it's fun, fun. And what's wrong with having pleasure and yes. So actually, it's funny you're even mentioning that, because that is one of my segments of my new, this whole mentorship thing is couples really need help, and guidance, and, women especially with, intimacy and pleasure. And so that's definitely coming in. And
so I'll be doing another 3 months soon, I
probably. And it's just, so there's so many new wonderful things coming in, and also helping healers and healers to me is a very broad spectrum. I think everyone falls into the category of healer, because we are healing in the way you can be a singer or an artist or an actual hands-on healer or a speaker or a doctor or even an internet specialist can heal a company by do you know what I mean? Like, the healer is a very broad term, but helping people to step into their leadership and to embrace how powerful they are. And so let's see, where are we at? We have like a minute.
Can I tell people?
Yes, tell people.
So the Love Your Neighbor, our website, because anybody, again, this is free, and we just want to get out all of these great tools. It's thegreatestcommand.com. If you go to thegreatestcommand.com, or you can just email me at info@shannongronich.com. I would love to share some of these free resources on In Case of Emergency, Love Your Neighbor. There's people get back there and they're like, this is a school of how to access money, how to collaborate. There's a bunch there. Yeah.
So thegreatestcommand.com, that's a part of the Love Your Neighbor Town Hall Zoom meetings. This is all of the resources that you've kind of shared about there.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's definitely something to look into to get these resources. And do you want to, on the last couple minutes, you want to go into the Dare to Live challenge?
I
or do you
just
think
will say
we
real quick as a as a somewhat of a little closing, is just we need to ask ourselves, if we had a year to live, what would we do? And I think a lot of times we walk around day to day and we get just so in routine that we don't stop to ask ourselves, am I doing what's best for me right now? Are there things I need to stop doing? And so this was a whole pilgrimage where got down to ground zero and traveled across the country. And long story short, I asked myself this question: if I had a year to live, what would I do? And how do I do it now and stop making excuses of not enough money, not enough time? It was just like, now's the time.
It is. I had a little bit of a health scare last year. It was just, a little one, but it made me think, before I went and got things checked, it's kind of comes up like, what if this is it? And without doing the Dare to Live challenge, I asked myself, I'm like, if I knew that my life was coming to an end, how would I be doing things differently? And I really sat with it. And so the same kind of concept, why am I not doing this now?
Yes.
Why am I waiting till I get the word that I'm dying, And even then it's, you don't have to buy into that diagnosis. Yeah,
and it's the same thing with relationships. Why do we stay in relationships that aren't good? Why do we stay at jobs that aren't good? It's just being willing to dare to live.
Dare to live. Live for today. Live now. Like, this is what we have, because this is what we have, right? And we were talking about the pleasure and the fun. It's like, why not have that now? Because I come from a line of overworkaholics. It's like work, money, money, money. It's not really just money. It's just work. It's like, we got to keep going. So this is a really good paradigm shift for me of saying, no, like, I do have to work, but I want to work with something that in the field where I'm passionate and I love it, and I'm also doing it for me, not just for my clients, me, So why not, before we sign off, do you want to just say again how people can get in touch with you?
Yes, so they can go to shannongronich.com or they can email at info@shannongronich, and it's GRONICH. And I love Trisha, so she might be able to give you my cell phone number if you reach out to her or you work with her.
I know, right? Yes, that's valuable information. And you can reach me at bamcommunity11@gmail.com. Working on the website right now, but email is the best way to get in touch with me. If you have any suggestions, if you want to get involved in the BAM community space that's forming, as a teacher, retreat leader, workshop leader, or even just as a subscriber for the events that are going on there for the live stream, go ahead and email me, bamcommunity11@gmail.com. Shannon, thank you so much for being here. It was fun.
Yeah.
We talked about a lot of stuff.
Yes, we did.
All right. We'll see you next time on
Right,
BAM,
thanks.
Badasses, Alchemist Mystics.